You Heard Me podcast with Hope Gables Canine. I am your host, Nick, and this is my beautiful wife, Alyssa.
Hi.
Great intro, as always.
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome everybody again. For those of you tuning in, welcome to the You Heard Me podcast episode
4.
Episode 4. Okay, so this fourth episode. And yeah, we had some technical difficulties earlier. Hopefully we don't run into those today. Apologies if we do. And yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to allow some time for people to join. While people are joining, what we're going to do is we're going to get into a lead-in topic. As a reminder for everybody, we do post a lot on our Instagram, from voting on topics for the podcast to asking questions. So you could submit your questions before the podcast even goes live. So definitely follow us on Instagram at Hope Gables Canine. You'll be able to, again, submit questions, vote on topics, and all of that input we use for the podcast when we go live. And so, you know, a lot of the ideas we're getting during the week for what the podcast is going to be like. So again, just a reminder for all of you, follow us on Instagram at Hope Gables Canine. Okay. So, all right, we're going to jump into the topic. Now, the topic that we put up a few options. The most voted option was to talk about dog parks and daycares. So this is going to be a good one. I'm going to try not to go off on a tangent, and I'm going to ask Alyssa to keep me honest. Yeah, so look, you know, when it comes to dog parks and daycares, right, it's a big topic. There's a lot of I guess, opinions on, you know, pros and cons, or why to bring a dog there, dog park or a daycare, or why not to. I'm going to give our reasoning. Again, there's use cases for everything. Okay, so let's talk about the dog parks before we talk about daycares, although there are similarities amongst the two. Okay, so when it comes to dog parks, the reason why most trainers are going to recommend against them is because there are too many uncontrollable variables, right? So that there's a lot of variables that you can't control, all right? And one of those biggest variables are you just don't know what the other dogs are about. Now, hopefully people are being responsible and not bringing dogs there that could potentially create an issue for your dog. But if the world worked that way, then there would be no laws and there would be no rules, right? We can't just trust everybody at their word. And as much as I want to believe that everybody is good intentioned, sometimes people just do things, without even thinking about it, or out of good intention. I'm not saying that anybody really is out of ill intent. I like to think very highly of people, but you just never know. And sometimes the owner doesn't know if their dog is going to just lash out on another dog. So again, there's just a lot of things that could happen, right? There could be a dog fight for that reason, you know, dog that should have never been brought there in the first place, or just dogs that just are depleted of energy and they just don't want to be there anymore. And then you have a dog that just comes in, they're high energy level, and you have a dog that's been there for like an hour or two, and that dog's like, okay, I'm exhausted. And so you could have fights just from just having mismatched energy amongst the two dogs. And because it's hard to evaluate that as an owner, this is where things go bad. So it's not necessarily out of ill intent. I don't think anybody's bringing their dog to a dog park when they necessarily shouldn't be there. Maybe they're just not aware of these things that are happening in their dog's mind, or, you know, emotions and things like that. But our job is to educate. And so there's too many variables that could be detrimental to your dog's behavior. Okay. Obviously the big one I just mentioned is a dog fight. Your dog gets attacked. I cannot tell you how many dogs have become reactive because they were attacked at a dog park. Do you really want to take that chance? All right. You have to ask yourself, is the risk, what's the risk to reward ratio? Now that's the most extreme example of why I typically will recommend against a dog park. Now, let's talk about some of the more, common ones, right? Most dogs, when they go to a dog park, what do they do when they get out of the car? Well, They rush out of the car because they're so excited to be there. And then they're pulling, most owners are getting pulled right to the gates. Okay, well, what happens when the dog enters the dog park? Leash comes off, and boom, the dog just goes running and romping around. Well, the dog just got rewarded for all of those bad behaviors leading up to the gate of the dog park. Okay, so the pulling, the rushing out of the car, all of that is essentially getting rewarded. The dog is like, okay, well, I was able to pull you to the gate of the dog park. I was able to rush out of the car. And it just, that excitement, that overexcitement just leads dogs to misbehave. And all of those behaviors don't just stay in the environment of the dog park. You start seeing them in other places as well. And so a lot of bad behavior actually is developed in these very high arousing areas. Pulling on a leash, rushing out of doors. A lot of that, especially if the dog has been going to a dog park from a very young age, a lot of that is coming from that. Now, let's take a dog that loves being at the dog park. Well, why is that a problem? Well, two things. One of them is I don't perceive that to be productive exercise, right? So a dog just coming out of their skin to get their energy out is not healthy exercise, okay? Now, what is healthy exercise? Well, okay, going on walks. You can play one-on-one with your dog, build a relationship, play frisbee, play ball, whatever it is. The problem is dogs getting to that arousal level consistently every single day is not healthy. And there's just too much energy in the dog park. And then what happens is dogs become very hyperactive. When a dog is full of energy, they're like, well, the only way I know to get my energy out is to come out of my skin. And then it becomes a habitual thing where, oh, I'm full of energy. I only know how to deplete this energy by getting super aroused. And then it just becomes this lifestyle thing where you're feeling like you have to give your dog more and more and more. Okay. So, and then the other thing I'll mention too is dogs that love playing with other dogs so much that it becomes like this huge part of their life. Well, try walking that dog by another dog on the street now. All right. Probably not going to be able to walk them by another dog on the street. So a lot of times we teach dogs how to come out of their skin via some of these environments, but we don't realize what we're teaching at a young age, and it becomes a problem. And a lot of times we don't see the connection of the environments to the behavior because it happens slowly until it's too late. All right. So a dog getting attacked, a dog becoming hyperactive, a dog not being able to settle around other dogs, all of these behaviors come from dog parks. And that's why most trainers recommend against them. Okay. And there's many other things that I could talk about, but high level, that's a big one. And a lot of dogs that come into our program, we have to teach them how to be neutral around dogs because they were over socialized in these environments. Okay. Dog parks, daycares, etc. Okay. So that's just why you're going to hear trainers like ourselves recommend against them, because we're having to pick the pieces up later on in that dog's life. I won't step foot in a dog park ever. And I train outside of dog parks because they're great distractions. But if you saw the things that I saw on a daily basis, you wouldn't want to step into a dog park either. There are many, many, many ways to exhaust your dog by not going to a dog park. And I know a lot of times we bring our dogs to dog parks, not we, but we know that people bring their dogs to dog parks because they feel like they want their dogs to be sociable. Okay. Set up play dates, bring the energy level down. Your dog doesn't need 1,000 friends. Your dog just needs a few friends. Okay. They don't need new friends every day. They need dogs that they trust, dogs that respect them, dogs that they respect, and then you'll have healthy relationships. Most relationships at a dog park are not healthy, okay? And I'm just going to leave you guys with that. But this is a very important topic, and I think understanding the thinking behind it is really important. So your dog could still have fun, your dog could still have friends, and your dog could still get their energy out without ever stepping foot in a dog park and reducing the risk of everything that I just mentioned here, okay? So hopefully that was helpful. So yep, that's what we're doing here. Okay, cool. And I just want to verify for everybody at home. I'm just going to log into our, we're going to take a quick moment pause to make sure that we are streaming, that we are streaming on YouTube. All right. I just want to log in. Yeah, we're good. Yep, we're live. Okay, cool. All right. So yeah, sometimes we do these double checks because we are streaming, and just to make sure that everything is going as it should. So apologies for the little intermission here. Okay. All right. So Alyssa, I'm gonna have you get into questions. We received a ton of questions earlier this week, and we're gonna get into those now.
Yes, a lot of them were actually kind of based off of dog parks,
Help you out here.
specifically, dog parks specifically. So I feel like you kind of answered that question already, but also around socializing. So these might be repetitive, but we'll just go through them. I want to socialize my dog so he gets along well with other dogs and can have play dates, etc. How should I go about introducing my dog to other dogs?
Okay, so introducing to other, I mean, this is a good one, and definitely it is related to the conversation we were just having. So, the introduction to other dogs, okay, really, really important. So, what you want to do is you want to start with coexistence. Okay, if your dog is either weary around other dogs or super excited around other dogs, either one, it doesn't really matter. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start do this in steps. Okay. So the first step would be what I would recommend is go on a walk together. Okay. Get the dogs used to just being in their space together, because I think what happens a lot of times is dogs rush up to each other. There's so much energy in that first few moments. And sometimes, a dog feels slighted because the other dog does this little thing that kind of triggers them, and then they get triggered and then becomes a fight. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to take a walk. You don't want to do interactions right off the bat. Just let them get used to being in their space together. Let them get used to, them being in their surroundings. Okay, and once they get used to each other, then you can allow some, all right, so let's allow some interaction. What you're doing is you're removing the high energy of most interactions of the first couple minutes, because again, you see two dogs meeting for the first time, it doesn't always go the way that you hope, and so you never want to take a chance. All right, so what you want to do, have leashes on the dogs. Don't do face to face to face. All right, allow them to exist, take walks, don't allow them to interact, go on a little walk together, and then bring them to the backyard, monitor them, monitor the body language, and let them kind of figure it out a little bit. But if you see anything that's taking a turn, that would be the time to step in and be like, all right, you know what? This may not be a compatibility thing. And here's the thing. Not all dogs are compatible. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but they're not. Just like people. People aren't all compatible with each other. And dogs are no different. Okay. So anyway, I think that's a good question. But again, like I was saying earlier, your dog only needs a few friends that they are compatible with. Okay. I think the issue becomes when we try to get our dogs to love every single dog and every single personality, you're going to run into issues. You're going to run into dog fights. All right. So it's not always going to work out. And I think we need to be okay with that. And that's the same reason why there are fights in dog parks. Okay. Because there is never going to be 100% a compatibility. You will find compatibility. And when you do, that's your dog's friend. All right. And you should continue to set up play dates with that individual dog. Okay. How did I do?
Very good.
Awesome. All right. You got to speak into the microphone though.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. All right.
Okay. More into socializing. I have a 2-year-old dog and I'm getting a puppy in a few weeks. How would you recommend to introduce the puppy to our current dog?
2-year-old dog, puppy in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, it's similar to my last question, or my last answer, but yeah, I mean, this is a little bit different because when you bring in a young dog into an older dog's household, you're going to run into some stuff probably. I mean, it doesn't always become an issue, but you are bringing a young dog into an older dog's sort of quote unquote territory. That older dog already has spaces in the home, which they've already said that this is where I lay down. These are my toys. These are things like that. So what you want to be careful of is you want to monitor for the first couple weeks, monitor the boundaries and how the older dog is responding to the puppy being around the older dog's space. You don't want, like, if the puppy starts stealing toys from the older dog, I wouldn't really allow that to happen. Now, there is an element of the older dog correcting the other dog, and certainly you could let some of that happen. That's fine. But if you notice that your puppy is instigating your older dog from literally day one, and your older dog's like, oh, what the heck? You're going to have to enforce some boundaries, put up baby gates. Okay, give your older dog some decompression. It's a lot. Now your older dog is having to share their home with a dog that they haven't had to.
Space.
Give them their own space, both of them, not just the puppy, but the older dog. Give them their own space. Crate train, separate crates, separate. You could feed them together, but just keep things individual for a little bit. Yes, they have to learn how to coexist with each other, and that they're going to have to go through that. But especially the first couple days, I would make it very clear, especially if the puppy is instigating the older dog, hey, look, all right, let's give him some space. You take a little bit of a breather, and then we'll get back to it. But yeah, I would highly monitor how the older dog feels and is responding, and I would also monitor the puppy just as equally, because look, negative interactions are going to stack on top of each other, and then that's how you get dogs that can't live in the same house together. And it all starts when the dog is younger and it comes in and starts ticking the older dog off. And the older dog is like, nope, not having it. And that's when you start getting into those fights. And then once the relationship is broken, forget it. It's not impossible. You can teach the dogs to be able to live with each other, but it's a whole hell of a lot harder than if you monitor from day one and try to mitigate the risk of the puppy instigating the older dog, or even, vice versa. You want to be the mediator now, so that later on you're not having to reverse all these mishaps that happened. And so boundaries, I hate keep using the word boundaries, but you really can't allow the puppy to instigate the older dog. The older dog is going to feel a certain way about it. And I'm okay with dogs correcting each other. That's fine. But sometimes it goes even further than that. It's not just like a one correction and then it's over. Some puppies don't even understand how to take a correction. Some do, but some don't get it. And if you see your older dog correct the puppy and your puppy's not getting it, that's the time to step in. You got to step in and you got to mediate. Otherwise, it's going to be a big issue.
Now, I have always heard, or actually my parents did this growing up when we got two dogs. We actually brought them both to a mutual ground first to meet, and not meeting in the actual home of the current dog. So they don't feel like the puppy or new dog is coming into their space. Is that something that you would recommend?
Yeah, look, you could do that. I don't think there's any harm in doing that. Yes. Because what that's doing is it's getting the dogs used to each other's, being in their, it's getting them used to just being around each other. What that does is it reduces the, when somebody comes in the door, dogs are like, who's that? What's going on? There's a lot of emotions that happen when the front door opens, whether or not you're bringing a new dog in or it's just a person walking in. There's a lot of trigger stacking. They call that trigger stacking. So trigger stacking is the dog's getting triggered. Okay, they hear the car, locking of the car. Then they hear the walking up the steps. Then they hear the door open. Then the door opens. That's all trigger stacking. And so what happens is, if your dog is like the triggers are stacking on top of each other, and then a puppy walks in now and you're like, hey, the puppy's staying here. That's a lot of emotions taken in a very short amount of time. So I don't hate the meeting on, common ground thing, because you're removing the potential of the dog already being triggered from like past things. And then now a puppy's walking through the front door. All right. And that's fine. I don't mind that at all.
Okay. Next question. This is kind of going into daycare centers, which you kind of mentioned earlier. I work long hours and feel bad leaving my dog in the crate all day. Would you recommend a dog walker or a daycare center?
I am always leaning towards the dog walker thing, right? I can't speak for every daycare center for certain, and I'm sure there are very, very, very good ones. If you have a very good one, then stick with it. If you trust them and it's not an overly arousing environment, When I say overly arousing, by the way, I mean there are environments that are just too overwhelming. I think I meant to say overwhelming. You don't want to put your dog in a place that they're being overwhelmed every day. And when I say overwhelmed, it is overwhelming. I mean, if you walk into some of these places, there's like barking, it's loud, the dogs can't settle, the dogs don't have time to just like, oh my God, I just need to take a break. And then when you go into the kennel rooms are loud. So look, I'm a big fan of doing the dog walker route. Find a dog walker that can play with your dog during the day. I get the reasoning behind daycares, but the same sort of things that we see that happen from dog parks also, I mean, daycares are very much like a dog park indoors.
Right.
It's not much different. So I'm always a big fan of dog walkers for that reason, because again, you're mitigating. You don't know what's happening when you're not around. You don't know how much the dog is or is not being held accountable. And, you want to make sure that your dog is behaving when you're not gone, especially if you're going to be gone for a long time during the day. You want to make sure your dog is behaving. Because otherwise you get home and you're like, oh my God,
like you said, like some behaviors can form.
Right. Exactly.
In those types of environments.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. Good point.
So I have a question of my own a little bit. Maybe more of a...
Who? You? You have a question of your own? Oh boy, this is gonna be
maybe a little bit more of a quizzical question.
Oh, it's a quizzical. That's a new one.
If that's
a
word.
All right.
So this morning I was on the train to work. Sorry, I'm trying to look at you and talk at the same time.
I know, that's why I turn. A lot of people. I think they think like, does Nick have back problems? No, I don't have back problems. The problem is when I turn. If I turned my head, just so everybody knows at home, I'm not like in bad health. But the thing is, I can't turn and talk to Alyssa without my mouth leaving the microphone. So a lot of you out there, and I'm going to, like, if I do this, it's because I want to keep I want you guys to be able to hear us.
Face each other.
Well, I thought about that. The thing is, but the only thing is when it comes to like social media content.
You got to look at the camera. Okay.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's so many reasons why Alyssa. Also, I like having Alyssa near me. So
very nice.
Nice,
okay.
Right? Hi. Okay. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I was on the train this morning, right? And a guy walked onto the train with his dog. Now, the dog was very well behaved, right? Pretty chill for the most part. But he was just very nervous, right? So the guy got onto the train with the dog. They went in their seat. The dog was sitting and like shaking and panting, so very nervous. And what the owner was doing was, petting the dog. Then the dog was going over to the owner, like, being like, help me out here. So the owner was petting the dog, giving the dog kisses. Is that and I was thinking to myself, like, is that the right scenario, or is...
Well, I get what you're taking. I get what you're saying.
Was the person making it worse for the dog? Like, were they feeding into the dog's anxiety?
Yes. No, I mean, yeah, short answer, yes. And I think we talked about this on the what type of dog was it?
It was a mix. I'm not sure exactly.
I'm just curious. Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this on the last podcast. I mean, we need to stop petting and consoling our dogs when they are clearly overwhelmed and nervous. All right. You're not. The problem is by sweet talking your dog in that moment and saying it's okay, you're not actually helping them feel better. Okay. You're just, the dog is struggling and we need to evaluate why. Like, we can't, yeah, I understand why we do it, but if a dog is stressed, like Alyssa's describing, they're on a train, they're panting, they're shaking, whatever it is, you petting them is not going to make it any better. Okay. What's going to happen is they're going to settle eventually. Okay. But you can easily add to the anxiety. All right. You can reinforce how they're feeling. Okay. So the metaphor I use for this a lot is like, if a kid is running and falls and scrapes their knee, if mom goes nuts and loses it, likely the kid is going to lose it. If the kid falls to the ground, scrapes their knee, and they're like, "Oh, you're fine," and yeah, you can help them up, of course, right? You're not gonna be mean, but like help them up. Okay, you're fine. Brush it off, right? Okay, the kid is less likely to go into like a full on screaming and crying like thing. And we all see. I mean, we've all been around. Even when I was a kid. Like if my mom made a big deal out of something, I was like, oh wait, maybe this should be a big deal. Okay. So, it's how we act when our dogs are nervous, fearful, insecure that directly correlates to how confident they're going to be the next time and then the next time and the next time. So I think that is an important topic. It's a big topic. And I don't think that's talked about enough. But I think spreading awareness is really, really important. Dogs are resilient. They will work through it. They will get through it. They will be okay. Our role should be teaching them how to be to be more confident, and it's not through picking dogs up. It's not through petting them and saying it's okay. It's not through any of those things. It's about learning how to use the leash, how and when to reward, how and when to hold things accountable. All these things give your dog the clarity to be more confident. But clarity doesn't come from what most people will revert to when they see their dog struggling. And I get it. Like, I understand, like, dogs struggling, it's really hard to see that. But you have to put your emotions aside and think logically, what is going to help my dog become more confident? And it's not those things. Okay. So yeah, good question. All right.
Okay.
Very nice.
Next question. My husband and I love dogs, but have never owned one of our own. What tips and tricks would you give for first-time dog owners?
Tips and tricks. This is a good one. Well, look, first-time dog owners, just be prepared. Be prepared that your puppy, rather, is gonna nip, whine, bark, chew things. Just be prepared that you're bringing a baby animal in your home. And I think a lot of people get blindsided because they're not expecting a lot of those behaviors, but those behaviors are similar for every single puppy that I've ever met. So, brace yourself. It's not, raising a puppy is no small feat. There are things that you can control and there are things that you cannot control. And I think it's being okay with the things that you cannot control. You can make things better. You can alleviate certain or mitigate certain behaviors from forming. Definitely crate train. Please mitigate your puppy from developing bad habits from a very young age. Otherwise, they're coming to us, and that's fine. That's why we do what we do. We'll take them. Yeah.
Okay. Will giving my dog food or food from the table cause begging?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. It will. And it will happen very soon, or very quickly, rather. Once or twice feeding your dog from the table. Yeah, absolutely. Watch how quickly habits develop when there's something in it for the dog.
Actually, I have a funny story about our dog.
Alyssa's got a funny story. This will be good.
So when we just had Ash before we got Layla, we went to my sister's apartment in the city for a football game. We brought him, and she had a coffee table. It's obviously lower to the ground, and we had some snacks on it, including little meats, like a meat and cheeses, whatever,
a charcuterie board. Yeah.
And so he smelled that meat, boy, and he just right off of the table, and like. We had never fed him from the table, nor do we feed our dogs from the table for that reason.
Yeah.
And he just one time since then, he knows a low table like that, food on it.
Yep.
He's like, go.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, that's actually a really good point. I'm actually glad Alyssa brought that up because a dog that hasn't ever tasted whatever the meat was,
right? They don't.
Well, guess what? They're going to remember that for a very long time. You drop something that the dog has never been able to have before, watch how quickly they start to like coming near you, right? And being like, oh, maybe you're going to drop that capicola on the floor or whatever. I haven't actually had capicola in forever. Oh my God. Now,
Okay.
listen, I think for everybody watching at home, all right, I'm a fan of some conversational things that maybe aren't dog training related, because I think a big thing about this podcast is getting to know us as people. And as much as I want to just give and like advice, right? I also think like we should have fun and talk about things like overpriced Legos and capicola and Italian lunch meat and all sorts of stuff, right? Let's have a little fun. Alyssa is also opening up more, which is nice. I love my wife to death. And she keeps me on track, which is very, very good.
Yes.
And I think that's very important. But I think taking little asides every once in a while is fine. But I understand how sometimes I go a little bit too far. So anyway, good story. And yeah, just to Alyssa's point, dogs will develop habits very quickly. And when a dog develops a habit, reversing the habit is always harder than stopping the habit from forming in the first place. If you could stop it from forming in the first place, then you don't have to go through what they call the reversal process. And I'm telling you right now, reversing is harder than just stopping it from happening. Think about people. When I was learning guitar, I had a really great guitar instructor, Gus Cenero. If you're looking to learn guitar, hit him up or reach out to me. I can definitely connect you. But Gus would always say, I hate to be calling this out right now, but it's better for me to stop your bad habit playing the guitar now versus having to stop your habit later on. And that always stuck with me. Shout out to Gus. In fact, I'll send him this. But Gus, you want people like that, especially like when I'm we're dog trainers. He teaches guitar. He actually is in an amazing band. First of all, he's very talented. But Gus was okay with telling me, hey, look, stop that habit now. And those are the type of teachers you want. You want teachers to be like, hey, I'm noticing a bad habit forming. Cut that out right now. Because a good teacher, a good educator knows that, it's going to be harder down the line if that teacher has to help you reverse whatever you've developed. And that's no different than in dog training. The best dog trainers stop you as an owner from developing bad habits, but also the best dog trainers are able to reverse bad habits in dogs as well. But it all starts with stopping habits from forming in the first place. Again, yes, you can reverse a bad habit, but it's always better when you can stop it. And that is why crate training is so important. I think everybody that's against crates, we're not talking about the biggest reason for crates. I mean, there's so many benefits. You're stopping bad habits from forming, okay? When puppies are young, they are going to get into things. Those habits will definitely enter adulthood. So all of you that are against crates out there, and I know some of you like cringe when you hear the word crate, I'm sorry, but there's more benefits to the crate than there are negatives. If you can stop your puppy from forming all these bad habits, you have a very well-behaved dog in the future. Maybe you don't need a crate. And I think that's not talked about enough. And also, our dogs, when they go into their crates, Ash and Layla are too.
They're obsessed.
Oh my God, they love
Layla, in the middle of the night, roll over and look at her, and she's upside down like this with her tongue hanging.
Yeah. So and they have their fancy Casper beds in there. We've made them.
That helps.
Yeah, well, that helps. We made them. All right. So if you're trying to crate train your dog, Casper, reach out to us.
Get a dog bed from
all right.
Casper.
I could use a sponsor. Speaking of sponsors, I want to hold up this candle. Okay, so these are very, very good friends of ours. In fact, Charlie is my cousin. And funny story, we didn't find that out until college. We were in college. We're like, wait a second, we're related. Him and his wife, Alexandra, they own this company. It's shopmundane.com. Hopefully I'm not butchering that URL. They make the best candles. And the best thing about it is you can go and actually they have all the scents and you can sit and it's like an activity. You can make your own candles. And I even believe that they store your information. I could be wrong. Hopefully I'm not blowing up their spot here and they don't have this, but I think that they keep some sort of record of what you ordered. Maybe you can order the same scent again. I might be wrong on that. But like you go in, you pick all of your scents. It's a beautiful shop. It's in Cold Spring, New York. I highly recommend to check them out. And again, you can order their candles online. We have these all over our house, and great for dog odor as well. Okay, so
it's a fun activity.
It is a fun activity. Valentine's Day, or any day, any weekend. Like we're always complaining that we don't have enough activities to do. Like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna go out to dinner again? Like, that is a perfect activity. Drive up to Cold Spring. Check out Mundane. Again, Mundane, this is the name of the company. And they're super talented. They are very detail oriented. I could not be more proud of them. So shout out Mundane. Again, if you have a puppy and your puppy is peeing everywhere, grab a couple Mundane candles, and you won't smell a thing. Right. So that's a little shout out there. Shameless plug for our friends there, cousin, family, etc. So what else we got? What else we got?
So just to piggyback on back to the begging thing. So she's
not done with her story, I can tell.
Talking about our dogs and our experience. So we had Ash who stole something off the table, and now he's like all interested in whatever food, we have when we're sitting on the couch. But Layla, on the other hand, never given her, a piece of food or whatever. She just like sits over on her place or sits over on her corner and is just like not even interested.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the good news is, Ash, if Ash ever comes and like tries to beg, the thing with Ash is he doesn't really beg. He just is around, and you can tell he's looking for, because look, I'm a little sloppy sometimes when I'm eating. Okay. Sometimes
it's actually really funny.
Sometimes I get it on my shirt, and look, I do drop stuff. All right. And I'm not the cleanest eater. Okay. So I'm partially at fault. And I think I know what you're going to say. Hold on. Let me finish my thought. Okay. I think the refreshing part about this is that we're not perfect. All right. No dog trainer is perfect. No dogs are perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. And so I just wanted to say that because, now if I see Ash like silent begging and I know I'm a messy eater, well, I have the luxury of having him go and hang out in his place so that that habit doesn't form, right. or makes it worse. So we use the training to help our, things that we do because, again, I'm a sloppy eater and I don't want him to become a beggar because of that reason. Mm-hmm. And I also should just be like a little bit less sloppy. But anyway, go ahead.
What did you have? Say is Ash is so funny because like Nick will be eating and sloppy like
I'll
says
he is.
He'll like drop something
right.
and you'll just see Ash's face go.
Yeah.
Like just literally watching.
Yeah. Oh boy, I drop
so
crackers.
Funny.
I'm a big cracker dropper. I'm eating crackers. Every time part of that cracker's hitting the floor. I don't know what it is. It's just like crackers. You know what's also really messy? Those bars what I used to get in high school, the
they're coming in green package.
Yeah, the green package bars. Oh, those are annoying.
So messy.
Annoyingly messy. Anyway, what other
guess they won't be sponsoring.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. What other products can we bring up? Hopefully we'll get a sponsor at some point.
All right, let's get back on track here.
We're about 40 minutes in. Let's kind of pick one or two more and we'll
Okay. Is treat training considered bribery?
No. It depends on how the treats are being used. We use tons of food. We use freeze-dried beef liver, which dogs love. So no, it's not bribery if I hit the microphone. It's not bribery. So treat training is not bribery if you're not using the treats as bribery. Okay. And using food, there's a method to how to use food. And at some point, what you want to do is you want to move the dog to a variable reinforcement system. So you're not rewarding every time, you're rewarding intermittently or randomized, right? So I use this metaphor all the time. My grandma doesn't go to the casino because she wins every time. She goes to the casino because she's won in the past. And that keeps her going back to the casino. And I use that metaphor a lot. Same thing with treats. I think we get into a bad habit of rewarding our dog for doing the thing every single time. And then the day that we run out of treats or we forget treats at home, dog's like, nah, I'm good, not doing it. So you have to be very methodical about how you go about phasing the treats out or moving to these systems.
To use them intermittently.
Variable reinforcement system and things like that. So yeah, good question. Great.
Okay. Do we have time for one more?
We have time for one more. We're not going to shut the lights off. We're not going to leave anybody hanging. What do we got?
Okay. When finding the right trainer for my dog, what are the key questions to ask? What questions did you ask?
Okay. Well, finding the right trainer. Definitely, how do you feel comfortable? I think that's the biggest one. I think if you see a red flag, it's a red flag. And that red flag could be different for everybody. Who is going to be comfortable with who? Like with dog compatibility, right? I think you need to listen to the trainer, listen to their recommendations, hear out why they're recommending it. If you don't agree with it, trainers are not here to convince anybody. Trainers are here to give the information, show their work, show that they can do it, and they're here to help you. We're here to help. We're not here to convince. And I'm not saying that to be like rude or anything. I'm just saying I don't feel comfortable if I have to convince somebody why our recommendations are going to be effective. I leave it entirely up to the people that call us. I will give the information. What you choose to do with that information is entirely up to you. And look, there are no hard feelings. I've said to people many times that I don't think where you're at in the training journey with your dog that we are the best fit. And that's okay. And there's no hard feelings. And I've said that to people who end up coming back to us and go, I think we're ready for a board and train. We weren't ready 2 years ago. I think we're ready now. Look, it's okay to not be a perfect fit wherever you are in the training journey. And I think it just comes down to how comfortable you are. Anybody that's trying to sell you or trying to give you an offer like, oh, sign up today and I'll knock off $500, I would start questioning that. Okay. We are in a very fortunate position as a company. Even if we weren't, though, I would not be selling people. I don't sell people. I don't like people trying to sell me either. I like to let our work speak for itself. And any trainer that you work with, I would highly recommend thinking about doing the same. And that's kind of how I'm going to leave it on that one. But
okay,
I'm doing good today. When Alyssa smiles at me,
I think this was a good one.
Well, hopefully
I think we're getting better about this.
I hope the internet.
I think I'm getting better at it.
We're all getting better. It's episode 4. We're all getting better. Right?
Yeah, I'm proud of my progress.
I'm proud of your progress.
Thanks.
See, when you build each other up, this is a little tip that I've learned in a year of marriage. Is building each other up is a lot better than competing with each other. And I think this podcast has taught Alyssa and I, many things have taught Alyssa and I that, but I think this is a good. First of all, Alyssa and I get along very well.
We're getting into marriage counseling now.
Yeah, well, we could get into marriage counseling. That will be the other podcast. But look, I mean, I think Alyssa and I, we've been together for close to 10 years now?
10 years? Yes, yeah. Next year.
Yeah, so next year will be 10 years. Little bit of, this is not dog training advice, but build each other up. Don't compete with each other. Anytime you try to compete, it's just not going to work out. It's not going to make the other person feel good. And I think Alyssa and I have gotten in a good groove of that where we build each other up. And you are stronger together than you are separate. I cannot thank Alyssa enough for her support. I thank her every single day of my life. I hope that you all do the same at home. Again, there's no such thing as the perfect marriage. There's no such thing as the perfect dog. There's no such thing as the perfect dog trainer. Perfection is an illusion. It's all a work in progress. And that's what I'm going to leave you with, baby. And I'm feeling good. We're getting into episode 5 next week, 8 p.m. We're shutting the lights down. I'm ordering Seamless because I didn't eat dinner. And we'll see you next week. The You Heard Me podcast with Hope Gables Canine coming to you every Thursday, 8 p.m. Good night and see you next time.